Hello and welcome to Fearless DIY Music. My name is Tristan Lass, and today I am joined by my dear friend Colin Ranney. He and I are going to be discussing the songwriting process. It's been a series that we've been working on over the course of the year, and today's focus will be upon lyrics. He recently released a song called 16 Bullets, and I thought that we used that as a little jumping off point for, how to go about writing lyrics, what are different approaches to writing lyrics, the meaning of lyrics, and things like that. And so I'll just kind of start things off by saying that, when I saw the song title, and the first thing that pops into my mind is that, this is going to be a social commentary song, maybe. Maybe this is a song torn from the headlines about, a public incident or event and things like that. And then I listened to the song and I realized, that's not what this is about. And then, it kind of got my wheels turning a little bit, and I reached out to Colin, and he was kind enough to come on to kind of discuss the song a little bit. And so, Colin, it feels to me like a old Americana folk tale kind of song. And so, am I right on that or wrong on that?
Yeah.
And was my first impression meant to be misled? Was I meant to be misled, or is it that's just the name of the song and it's just that simple?
No, it's just that simple. That's just the name of the song. But yeah, it's absolutely meant to be in the vibe of that kind of old, maybe topical of what used to be topical long ago. But, yeah, that was actually a song that I wrote like 10, 12 years ago.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it just sat, but I never forgot it, and I kept coming back to it. So I eventually recorded it, which I'm very happy I did because I feel good about how it turned out.
Yeah. Sonically, it's great, and it's a very catchy tune as well, and it really does capture that Americana vibe, but not in like a. Because Americana is not my favorite genre,
right?
But I think that you really did it well in that it feels contemporary at the same time, and it doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel like we're going to the seashore, or
right.
like an old sea shanty type thing, like the Decemberists would do or something. I find a lot of that stuff is very contrived, and to me, it just feels like you're telling a story. And you're sitting on a porch somewhere telling the story that happened, to an audience.
Right.
And that's the vibe I get from it, and I can get down with that, because it doesn't feel like.
And I really appreciate that, because that's the goal. And that song did just kind of come out. And the reason I didn't record it or do much with it for such a long time is at the time when I wrote it, that's not the kind of song I was trying to write.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to move into a different kind of more band-oriented rock songwriting, and that song just, came out. And I thought it came out easy. It was like, this is good, this is fun, this is easy, but it wasn't what I was really trying to do at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't do anything with it. But it is that kind of, just telling a story on the porch, making up a short story about a old little murder chase mystery scene kind of thing, which is fun. I do that in songwriting every now and then.
Yeah, it's fun to step into characters sometimes and do like a storytelling. I did more of that on my last album than I had any other time. Like there's at least four of the songs on my latest release were like I stepped into a character. I gave a little bit of imagery about that character and, either their problems or where they're at, mentally or psychologically, and just kind of like trying to paint a picture of a moment in somebody else's life, which is an interesting thing to do. And I think it's a value because, my angle is always social commentary. So I use those characters as foils to kind of give my, subtle or not so subtle opinion about things that are happening around me or around the world. And so I was wondering, do you think that inadvertently, I had no idea that you wrote the song so long ago, but do you think inadvertently there's anything about the song beyond its actual Genesis story that's applicable to today's reality? Or should we be trying to force lyrics into having meaning beyond what, was intrinsically meant when they're written. I mean, people run with stuff all the time, so I'm just curious about I'm just curious about your take on it.
I don't think we should force it into a song like that, but I think lyrics always have meaning beyond the first intent. There's always layers. I mean, I guess maybe if you're writing a hyper specific song, then maybe there's no meaning beyond the thing that you're really trying very hard to say specifically. I don't tend to write like that. I tend to write with some abstraction, and I think when you write with abstraction, there is layers of the things that are going on around you and how you're feeling. All that stuff is absolutely in there, even if it's not the point.
Sure, and I have upon occasion, like I can think of one song on the latest release. Once again, I'm not trying to talk about my stuff, but I had one song where there's just no question of what it's about. There are only a handful of words in it, and it's just like that's it. So I get on my soapbox sometimes, and that's one thing that I wanted to talk to you about a little bit today is that is there like a I don't want to devolve into anything too specific here, but there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of stuff that's upsetting people on all across the spectrum of things. And I was just wondering, is protest music or social commentary stuff? I mean, is it what we need right now? Is it relevant anymore, or is it just kind of adding to the static? That's a question I'm asking myself right now because I'm preparing to make an EP for release. I shot for Christmas time last year. I'm going to do it this year because I'm only going to do a handful of songs instead of a whole album. Right. And so, but I'm really wrestling with that because there's things I want to say, but then again, I don't want to just add to, this is just a bunch of background noise, and it turns everybody off because they're just like, well, I don't want to hear that shit. So I'm just curious, is there a meaningful space for that stuff at this point, or is it more should we be providing music just as entertainment value?
I think there's absolutely a meaningful space for that. I don't think everybody needs to do it. I don't think anyone needs to feel compelled to do it unless they want to do it. But I think it's always important, I think, to have that in music, that space of people who are focused on politics and social commentary and, in some realm. But I think it's more important now. I'm seeking out some of that stuff and listening to more of it, I feel like, because of the things that are going on. But again, it's not all I listen to, and it's nice to have escapist music too. I mean, the whole thing right now is recession pop, right? People don't even want to listen to escapist pop from now. They want to listen to escapist pop from before the financial crisis.
Yes. Yes.
2008.
Of 2008, yeah. All the way back, yeah. Yep. Before everything kind of became, the curtain got pulled fully back, and everything.
Right. But yeah, I think anyone who feels called to make that kind of music should put it out loud and proud right now. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, that makes me feel better because I can't pull away from it to a certain extent. I always have to kind of, and even back in the days when you were working with me in Play, way back when, and the songs back then, there was always some of that going on in every song for at least a few lines where I was just going to take a swing at everybody, and be like, hey, wake up, or hey, this is a problem that maybe we should think about, or stuff like that. So I've always
I think that's part of your DNA. That really is part of your DNA. It's just a matter of whether you want to lean into it or just keep it kind of light, like you're talking about.
Yeah, and I think that what I found is, I already have some ideas coming and stuff like that, but I also don't want to, I don't like treating listeners like they're dumbasses either and beating them over the head with something that's either too obvious or just patently offensive, because that's not the goal either, is to piss people off. So but yeah, I just wanted to get your as a fellow songwriter and lyricist, with a big back catalog, I just wanted to kind of get your take on, where are you headed just in general as a lyricist? I also like to write, as we were talking about in our text conversation before the show. I love to write abstract lines. I love to do the Dadaist mix and match. I always put a few songs like that in everything, where it's just kind of like, this is stream of consciousness kind of imagery. you can make of it what you want, but I know what I see in my head when I'm writing it. And I was just curious, is there a particular direction that you feel like you're headed, or do you just let this stuff just kind of, or are you just going to continue to let it happen organically?
I mostly let it happen organically. It was interesting putting out 16 Bullets and thinking of that as a jumping off point for a discussion on lyrics, because it got me thinking, would I have changed that song if I wrote it now? Because obviously I've changed, my songwriting process has changed. I don't know if I would keep everything the same way it is or use some of that stuff. So like starting out with "Come On Friends" and "Gather Round." It's a very kind of blatant way to start a song like that, but with the benefit of hindsight, I'm like, no, that's great, that works. I wouldn't do it again, but it works for that song.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you create something in the moment and it's so powerful or compelling to yourself that you just can't, even though the world around it changes, you can't change it. I have moments like that too, where I come up with an idea and then I can't let it go, even though
and sometimes you shouldn't. It's easy to get overworked trying to overwork something.
Yeah.
Thinking you can make it better. I think one of the main things that I've improved on over the years as a songwriter, I think lyrically, is being able to continue to massage stuff and make it better without losing that spark. But there is often magic in the first idea. I think it's important to always remember that.
Yeah, I agree. You know what? I'll tell you, this is just an interesting little anecdote, and then we'll kind of start heading towards wrapping this up. But I want to get your thoughts on this. So I don't know if you ever listened to my 2020 release, Landed, which is basically like I wrote like a movie in 8 songs, and a couple of the songs are just like kind of sound collages that are meant to evoke imagery of a scene in a movie, and each song is supposed to be a particular movement of the movie.
Right.
And the theme of the whole album Landed is that this airplane has been circling the Earth after the apocalypse. Humanity's destroyed itself, but there's a few survivors on this airplane, and they finally land, hence the name of the album, Landed. And then their journey, both before getting on the airplane, after getting off the airplane, kind of thing. And the implication was it was either something climactic or it was a pandemic. And I'd written the whole goddamn thing before COVID hit. And I sat and I was like, holy crap, I wrote this god-awful apocalyptic album. And now we have a god-awful apocalyptic pandemic situation. It felt that way at that time. I mean, now we all look back at it and it's a much different perspective. However, at that moment when I'm making that album, I had started tracking. I mean, I had started tracking it, and then COVID hit, and I'm like, should I even do this thing? Should I throw it all away? And you know what I did? I put my head down and I was like, well, it's happening right now. It felt like it was happening right then. And then I'm writing it out. I was like, well, I anticipated it. And then I made sure on all my promo for that album, I said, this was written, conceived before the pandemic.
Right.
So don't say that I'm trying to take advantage of this scenario to do this album. And that was one of the biggest mind fucks of my life, was being in that situation where I'd written this whole thing and I had this whole grand vision, and then the world came crashing in on it, and it didn't do so well. And I think it's just because I couldn't overcome the fact that it just hit at the same time. But I did it anyway because I thought it was good,
Yeah. Yep. And that's what I tried to do as well. I think it's kind of what you have to do as an independent artist. You got to put your head down and focus on the creative element of the thing that makes you happy first, and then second, think about getting it out to people.
I think that's really apt advice. I don't know if you watched the Mudhoney episode that Kevin and I did in the middle of the summer, but one of the things that Mark Arm said at the very beginning of that the documentary is that he just said, if you do it for anybody other than yourself, you're fucked. And I thought that was some of the best advice, that you just kind of have to roll with it.
Absolutely.
and be true to your vision, and then that way people can feel the authenticity as well. I mean, which is really important now, especially with AI slicing and dicing words into these ridiculous sound collages, you know. So I think real hand stitched lyrics are going to be more and more important, I think, going forward, because it's going to distinguish us, you know.
Well, and I don't think it's happened yet, but I think more and more as AI becomes more prevalent, there has to be a desire for things that are raw, and that's going to apply to everything, you know. And a lot of independent music that has no AI, I mean, they're not doing any of that stuff. It's still very, very produced, very poppy because of the tools that we have right now.
Yeah.
You know, all the plugins come, all, you know, the stuff, the way you do things, the YouTube tutorials, like you're getting a lot of stuff that's pretty generic when it comes out. And I think there's just, at some point, I'm anticipating a huge desire. Maybe a certain band will break through with a certain sound or something, but there's going to be a desire out there for stuff that's raw and real, and obviously not AI. And then AI will try to learn
how to do that.
Obviously not AI.
Yeah, that'll be the trick. I mean, you know, I refuse to use plugins. I don't use plugins. I am in a DAW now. You know, I've made that full move over, but I won't use plugins. I sit and do takes, and I listen back to things, because the beauty of the DAW is you have an infinite number of chances. So it's like, if I don't get something right the first time, or I'm not liking the sound, I just reamp and I go over there and I twist some knobs, and then I record again, and then I see if I like the sound. And I don't do it necessarily because I'm anti-plugin or I'm trying to beat AI. I do it because I don't want to learn. I've learned enough skill sets in my life, and learning how to use plugins is not something I even want to do, and I know how to get sounds in a room, so it's just interesting.
Right. Yeah.
So, but yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, the better way to use plugins is to use them on a sound that's good to begin with.
Yeah.
So,
where you
I mean, even if you ever do start using them, you know, that's the way you get a lot of that generic homogenized music, is people using plugins to make a sound that started out kind of crappy, something they can use.
Yeah. Trying to resurrect it rather than doing another capture, because to me it's just like, well, you know, we died in the studio making that Play album, because we spent what, maybe a grand total of a week tracking it, and then we spent a year mixing it, it felt like, and it was just like, oh my god, why don't we just redo all the parts, and then it would have been faster. You know. But anyway, well, Colin, thank you so much for joining me today, shedding some light on 16 Bullets, which, if you have not checked it out, go to Colin Ranney's socials, which will all be linked down below in the description, and check it out. It is a great tune, a great listen, and really appreciate him being here. If you've made it this far into the video, hit like and subscribe. Shares are also greatly appreciated. And if you're a lyricist yourself or hoping to become one, leave something in the comments. We love to hear it. All right, you take care, hit subscribe, and we'll see you next time.